Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News for Wednesday, January 21. I'm Carrie Simpson. A special welcome to our viewers on YouTube, TVJ International in the Cayman Islands, and online at onespotmedia.com. Here's what we have in the bulletin. 3 arrested in massive multi-million-dollar fraud investigation. 6 St. Catherine families homeless after fire destroyed their homes. And later in sports, Mobay United looks to extend lead in the JPL. Now the details. The Shadow Minister of Health is raising concerns about funds intended for children's health care. Dr. Alfred Dawes says roughly $75 million raised in 2023 for the Pediatric ward at the University Hospital of the West Indies may have been diverted without consultation with the hospital's pediatric department. The money was raised through the Sagicor Sigma corporate run and promoted as supporting a permanent pediatric facility. Public reports indicated the run raised $91 million, with most earmarked for the project. Now, Dr. Dawes is now calling on UHWI to provide a full public accountability, or rather public accounting of the funds, stressing that transparency is critical to maintaining trust in the public health system. The president of the Nurses Association, Dawn Marie Richards, is calling on the Ministry of Health to act urgently, noting that Cornwall Regional Hospital's A&E is dangerously overcrowded. Nakinsky Robinson has the details.
President of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, Dawn Marie Richards, is holding the Ministry of Health to the 3 weeks timeline for a resolution to the overcrowding issue at Cornwall Regional Hospital after a visit yesterday left her traumatized. Mrs. Richards says nurses and doctors of the Accident and Emergency Department cannot continue to treat patients under the existing conditions. The department was moved into a smaller space due to the ongoing multi-billion-dollar rehabilitation exercise to address several issues, including mold from 2017. The situation has been further compounded by the damage to some buildings during the passage of Hurricane Melissa. Speaking today on TVJ's Smile Jamaica, Mrs. Richards said the A&E department, which was designed to host a maximum of 40 patients, was overflowing with 112 patients yesterday.
You know, I say to people, I've been in nursing since 1993, and I never know that I would live to see a day like this. Yesterday, I was traumatized. I was traumatized when I went into the A&E department. As the president, I went with my team, and as a president, you are expected to have a certain amount of decorum. So I just had to go back outside. It was hard. It was really hard because I look at it this way. I am not a nurse. I am a regular Jamaican in the Montego Bay area. Something happens and I have to go to hospital. Your first point of entry in hospital is an accident and emergency department. And I go in and I am admitted on a chair.
The NAJ president says the majority of persons were awaiting admission, but there were no available beds. She says, like doctors, there is also a shortage of nursing staff at Cornwall Regional.
15 to 22 nurses would be ideal for 39 to 40 patients in an A&E setting.
Okay.
Remember, we have different ratios for different areas.
So you had 6.
And we had 6 nurses yesterday with the 2 supervisors. That would call it 8, because the supervisors, I really admired them yesterday. So sister in our yellow belt and sister in our blue belt, but they are part of the team who are working, doing the physical.
She says the shortage of nurses is because of the change to the employment system in the public health sector. Nakinsky Robinson, TVJ News.
The major organized crime and anti-corruption agency MOCA says 3 suspects were arrested over the last week in connection with a massive multi-million-dollar fraud investigation affecting several financial institutions across the island. The suspects are a 44-year-old man and 2 women, ages 37 and 40. They were nabbed during a series of coordinated operations across several parishes between January 13 and 16. The man was arrested at his Kingston address on Wednesday, while the women were arrested in Montego Bay St. James and Portmore St. Catherine on Wednesday and Friday, respectively. Mocha says they are suspected of carrying out an elaborate and highly sophisticated multi-million-dollar scheme targeting several financial institutions between January 2023 and April 2024. Now, they are expected to be charged later this week with various offenses, including breaches of the Proceeds of Crime Act, breaches of the Forgery Act, and breaches of the Law Reform for Fraudulent Transaction Special Provisions Act, among others. With murders continuing to trend downwards, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says this now paves the way for the next phase of his administration's crime strategy. Dr. Holness provided details at the opening of the Jamaica Stock Exchange's 21st Regional Investment and Capital Markets Conference. Details in this report. 2026 has started on a good note for law enforcement, with murders declining by 45% as at January 17. This continuing along the trend from 2025, which saw 673 murders, the lowest in 31 years. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says he expects this to continue as the government moves into the next phase of its crime strategy.
The plan, because all of this is by plan, it's not by accident. We established Plan Secure Jamaica, and we backed it with a $90 billion budget, investing in our security forces, and we are now reaping the results. The next phase of the plan is to move the society to peace.
Reflecting on the gains made by the security forces, Dr. Holness explained stemming gang and domestic-related violence was a key driving the numbers down. He further pointed to the economic fallout of crime over the years in key areas like tourism.
For every time there is a negative travel advisory, consider that people who have to think about insurance to travel, they change their minds. There are certain markets that you won't get into because when your stats are reviewed. So there are those who would say, well, you know, violence is a social issue. It's because of economic deprivation and, persons who are marginalized, without thinking that those persons actually create the marginalization by placing a limit on our economic success, by the decisions they make to become criminals.
The issue, he says, will continue until society stands up in unison against criminal elements. He says the state stands ready to provide opportunities to steer people from a life of crime.
Let this be the decade where we remove that from our society. In the same way that we have achieved fiscal discipline, let us use this decade to eliminate violence from our society. Let this be the decade when Jamaica truly attains peace. And this will reinforce our economy. And the very people who claim that they are involved in crime because they have been marginalized, they too will have the opportunity to share in this economy, to become stockholders and shareholders, and start their small business. We want you to become business owners. We want you to become entrepreneurs, because much of the effort that they put into crime, if they were to put it into business, they would be successes.
Turning to hurricane recovery, Dr. Holness says the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority is closer to being established. The authority will be mandated to coordinate post-disaster reconstruction and long-term resilience building.
In a few days, I will be making further announcements about where we are with NARA. We have just put out an advertisement for an executive officer to lead the entity. We have established it temporarily as a department of the Cabinet Office. Tomorrow, actually, the Cabinet meets to make the final decisions as to the organizational structure, the governance, the short list of initial projects that it will undertake, and the legislative agenda.
It's time for a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Time now for the Business Minute.
The government of Jamaica is projecting a sharp slowdown in the economy following the impact of Hurricane Melissa. In a memorandum sent to the International Monetary Fund Board, the government forecasts a 4.3% decline in economic activity and inflation of 9.5% for fiscal year 2025 to 2026. The document was submitted to secure approval for a $415 million drawdown from the IMF's Rapid Financing Instrument to help meet urgent balancing of payment needs after the storm devastated foreign exchange earnings and the savings sector. Further afield, Netflix has reached a new milestone as it looks to buy part of Warner Brothers Discovery. In a shareholder letter on Tuesday, Netflix reported it had more than 325 million global paid subscribers at the end of the fourth quarter in 2025. That's up from just over 301 million in 2024. According to the streaming service, its ad revenue exceeded $1.5 billion last year. Netflix also announced plans to raise its content spending this year by 10%. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Prince Moore.
Thank you, Prince Moore, and here's a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report.
In this evening's Health Report, we look at sugar consumption.
What you really want to do is not have foods that are too sweet or high in sugars. Too sweet usually tells you that is high in sugar. So foods, beverages are a prime example. Most sweet beverages have a lot of sugar. Pastries also, sweet pastries tend to have a lot of sugar. Even other desserts like ice creams, yogurt even, many of them are sweet because they're high in sugar.
That's the Health Report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's healthy living tip. Choose water. Make water your primary drink. Add lemon, cucumber, or mint for flavor. Cut sugary beverages. Avoid sodas, sports drinks, and sweetened teas or coffees. And try alternatives. Go for unsweetened tea, sparkling water, or low-fat milk.
Time now for the top regional and international stories.
Guyana's Speaker Mansour Nadir has ordered a meeting on Monday for opposition MPs to elect a leader of the opposition after weeks of pressure and early refusal to convene following the September 1 elections. The We Invest in Nationhood party, led by Azordin Mohammed, holds the most opposition seats, though Mohammed faces U.S. extradition on multiple charges. The speaker controversially compared Mohammed to Pablo Escobar and criticized Western diplomats over concerns about Parliament's inaction. And on the international scene, the Mexican government sent 37 alleged criminals to the United States, marking the third such transfer in a year. That's according to Security and Citizen Protection Secretary Omar Garcia Harfuch on Tuesday. The officials said these individuals are operators of criminal organizations who represented a real threat to the country's security. Mexican officials assured that the action was carried out in accordance with the national security law and under national cooperation mechanisms. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Kimberly Petty.
Thank you, Kimberly. We now head to our final break, but stay with us. The Midday Sports Report is next.